I will be releasing a game on Steam before Christmas with a 10-week dev cycle as challenged by my mate Dean, while also working my normal 9 to 5 as a web developer. I have zero official experience as a game developer, and so the game is most likely going to be incredibly shit. However, the idea is to just get something on the Steam marketplace, as our previous dev cycles have taken years when the aim was originally for them to take months. Although I have zero game dev experience apart from the game that I was currently developing before taking a break to attempt this project, and you can see the result of this ongoing project now. I am a corporate developer and I do understand programming to quite a decent degree. It's more the use of Blender and asset generation is what's really going to hold me back here. Apologies for such a gruesome graphic. However, I simply don't have time, as time is of the essence, and I'd rather spend it developing rather than make this look pretty. However, the basic concept of the game is survival, where you have to protect your pen of sheep, which will in turn earn you gold during a day night cycle. And every morning you shear your sheep, you get gold, and then you choose what to do during the day in preparation for an attack during the night. Exactly what players will do during the day in preparation for the nighttime has yet to be firmly decided. However, something like farming AI and gaining loot and XP, as well as potentially trading or farming building materials in order to build towers, um, pretty much anything is an option at this point, and I'm also open to suggestions for that as well. Other key features of the game are a randomly generated map, potentially infinitely generated map, a skill tree to spend your XP earned, and also equipable items, which presumably you'll be able to craft or at the very least buy off the trader and equip in your slots. These features are going to be what dictates the replayability of the game, as well as various potential end game scenarios and how you would effectively win the game. For example, maybe by surviving a month or running off into the abyss and defeating a mob in his dungeon or something to that effect. So I went ahead and created a new project in Unity and named it Defend the Sheep. I have no idea if this name's going to stick. However, it's what I have for now. So my first aim is to just render something in the actual space. So I've added a cube as just a generic entity, and now I'm trying to generate a map for this entity to, ultimately run about on. I've also added this cube as a prefab, and this is going to be essentially a map tile or a cube. And now I'm creating a map manager, which will essentially generate this map from these cubes. So I'm just writing the logic for map generation here. It's essentially generating a chunk, so 100 tiles by 100 tiles. I had just finished a full day of work by this point, so my brain was pretty fried and I was struggling to visualize the solution, so I had to bring up the scribble pad to save the day. So after longer than I'd like to admit, I finally got the tiles spawning in a 100 by 100 grid. However, the scale was off and it just, the cubes were not touching each other, as you can see. Then the cubes were touching each other, but only on the y-axis. And then finally it all came together and the cubes together generated a plane which will act as our map. I then just wanted to add some variation to the map and also establish communication between the map manager, the tile object, and then the tile object prefab as well. So I created a bunch of random materials of different color, and during map generation it will essentially load all the assets in the material folder, choose a random one and apply it to that cube So essentially we will have color variation in the map. Doesn't do anything, but it just establishes that game logic for manipulating those prefabs. So here you can see the generation in full effect, and the prefabs having their color or material manipulated. And I also used AI just to generate me a script just so I can move about the original cube I added. This code was pretty shit, so it will be taken out ultimately in favor of the default character controller. I essentially duplicated the AI code in order to create an enemy prefab. However, the problem with this code is that it takes into account stuff like friction, and so the speed you actually allocate it isn't actually what's translated into the rendered game, just because a bunch of other physics effects. So as I mentioned, this can all be avoided by using the default character controller. However, I'm just trying to get an enemy object and something that behaves somewhat like an enemy. The first actual feature I want to implement is the day-night cycle. So this will involve two spheres and light sources rotating around a center point, and this will obviously control how dark the atmosphere is. So here you can see the darker environment generated by the moon light source. However, you can see it's rotating around the wrong axis. So just a quick fix to correct the direction which the sun and the moon are rotating. And as you can see, it's behaving like a sun and a moon now. So apart from a slightly offset rotation center point, the last issue with the day-night cycle is the night environment skybox not being dark enough. So I'm just altering these and saving them as prefabs so that I can load them in depending on whether it's day or night. So I'm just adding code here to transition and blend the two skyboxes at dawn and dusk. And you can see the two different skyboxes at the bottom of the Unity editor there. So here you can see the final product of the day-night cycle. You can see the moon gradually rising and the skybox environment gradually fading from light to dark. And the difference is night and day. So I'm quite happy with the result of this night skybox. As you can see, it's pretty much pitch black. And then the sun will rise again and the skybox will transition to the daytime. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, Blender is far from my strong point. So I was trying to just generate a basic sheet model. However, as you can see, it did not go well. And I eventually just gave up. If I want to release this in a 10-week dev cycle, I can't spend all my time doing this. Then I noticed the scripting tab in Blender and did a bit of research and discovered that it ingests a Python script which will generate all your polygons and even the skeletal structure, and apparently can even do the animations as well. So I asked AI to generate me a script to generate the sheep, and it went surprisingly well. Long story short, this is the final result of the AI Python script, and I think it will do rightly for now. So that's all I have for the first devlog. As I said, the ultimate goal is to get something up before Christmas, and even just throw it up for $1, or if anything, and just try to get a bit of traction. Similarly, if you want to follow this, please subscribe, and I'll release the second devlog soon enough. And finally, the comment section is open for suggestions, so I will read these and take them on board if you have any contributions. Finally, I also stream the development on Twitch, so I will leave the link in the description. Thanks for watching.